Was it hard going from 1 to 2 kids? Fucking yes. That is the short answer. Yes, it was fucking hard, all right? But I do have a bit of a theory on this. I honestly feel like it kind of depends on the second child. So I have a 3.5-year-old Stevie and a almost 2-year-old Molly, and they were 2 under 2, like just 2 under 2. So there's 22 months between them. They were both in nappies when we had Molly, and like, it was fucking crazy, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. But so my theory is, I feel like some people will say, oh, the second one's easier, like you know what to do, you've already had a baby before. I feel like for me, it kind of, look, I totally get that. Like, yeah, I do agree. Like, the firstborn, you're literally Googling everything. You're in the hospital confused. You're like totally relying on the midwives and your mom and like everybody to give you advice and help you to know what to even do with a baby. That part is so tricky and everything hits you really hard, like the sleep deprivation, all of that stuff, because you've literally never done it before. But in saying that, I feel like going from 1 to 2, it's like a whole new skill set. It's like you're literally having to divide your attention between 2 little kids, 2 babies sometimes. Like, yeah, a baby and a toddler, or a baby and a kid, like a baby and someone else. And that is so tricky. And so my theory is, if your second child is harder than the first, that's where you're going to get different answers, because some people, their firstborn might be a terrible sleeper. They might be colicky. They might have like really bad like heartburn or something. And so they might have found that their first baby was really hard. And then they have the second baby and they're like, oh, you know, it was a breeze having our second baby, like slept better, you know, didn't have the heartburn issues, whatever. But if your second baby is a harder baby than the first, you're going to find it harder, right? Like, yeah, it's not the first time you're doing it, but I feel like that, you know, juggling between having 2 now is just going to be like harder, you know? Does that make sense? I just feel like for me, when I had Stevie, I was really able to just focus on her. Like, yeah, I was confused, but I had times in the day where she was sleeping where I could kind of Google things and figure it out, talk to other mums, see how they're going. And it was like quite, you know, it was obviously a huge journey, but I had that time to do that. I also had that, I didn't know it at the time, but I kind of had the freedom to do that. I know that when you have a baby for the first time, a lot of your freedoms are changed and like taken away, because you're literally having a little human dependent on you for the first time in your life. But I did, without knowing it, I did have a little bit more freedom than I do now with 2. And I was able to just focus on her. So like if something happened with her, I was able to just Google it and focus on it and problem solve. And yeah, sometimes it wasn't a quick like solving the problem. Sometimes it took days, weeks to figure that out. Like with her sleeping, Stevie was not a good sleeper. Neither of my girls are good sleepers. And Stevie, like it took me weeks, I think maybe even you could say months, to figure out the whole sleep thing with her. I was able to just focus on that, you know, kind of thing. Whereas when you've got 2 of them, you're like figuring stuff out for 2 of them. And like you just don't have as much time with 2 of them. So like if something was going on with Molly as a baby, I also had Stevie to look after. So I didn't have as much time or flexibility or freedom to like figure out stuff like that while having to look after a toddler who at the time was still in nappies. You know, like Stevie wasn't even 2 yet. Like she was literally like almost 2. And so I had this like busy 1-year-old, and so I was trying to figure out both things. And I honestly feel like the reason why I thought it was harder as well is because it was just like, say you want to put down your new baby for a nap, right? When you've got one, like I said before, you can just focus on that, which, yeah, it takes your whole like attention to like figure that out, of course, because for some babies like mine, they don't just like go to sleep. Like you have to rock them and oh my God, like it was, yeah, it took up to like half an hour to an hour to get them to sleep and then put them in their cot, which in the first few months, they weren't sleeping in their cots, like they were on me. You know, at least when you've got 1, you can do that. But when you've got 2, you've got a baby, and I was trying to get her to sleep. I was trying to get her to sleep so that I could gently put her in her cot for a nap. Seems so simple, but then I had Stevie to look after as well. Like, what am I meant to do with the 1-year-old? Like, yeah, people do say things like, oh, you know, make a busy bag, make like or a busy box or whatever they're called. So get little activities and stuff that your toddler can do to entertain them while you're putting the baby down. Let me tell you, it is not that easy, okay? It is not that simple. Your toddler, they're not just gonna like play on their own. They want you to play with them. They want you to guide them. So like you're trying to put this baby down and like shush the baby, and like Molly was such a screamy baby, just took ages to calm her down. And I would just have Stevie like just at me, like just running around me, busy, breaking things, grabbing things. Meanwhile, I was just trying to put Molly down for a nap. And so I literally found that the only thing that worked for me, I could get up like Bluey or something like that on my phone and just have it there and like literally be feeding Molly. And I was like breastfeeding as well. I mean, it doesn't matter, bottle feeding, breastfeeding, whatever. You're like trying to feed them to sleep kind of thing in those early days. And so I'd have Molly there and I'd be sitting on the nursing chair, and then I would have my phone on the thing, and then Stevie would literally be like climbing all over me, leaning, like watching the screen. And I would just every time be like fingers crossed that I can get Molly to sleep and calmly put her in a cot and hope that Stevie didn't make that much noise to like wake her up mid trying to get her to sleep. Oh my God, it was pretty wild, honestly. And like, yeah, you do figure out that kind of thing after a while. And like, obviously there's easier times and there's harder times. Like sometimes Stevie would be glued to the TV in the other room and I could be like, right, I'm gonna get Molly down for a nap now. Like she's due for a nap, I'm gonna get her down. And that would be like easier. But then other times it's like, Stevie was just at me. Like she just wanted my attention. She just was not watching the screen. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I found is trickier. The other thing is, which is more to my point of like, they're both different children, is I just feel like Stevie, she will like sit down and watch the TV. Or like not sit down, but she'll at least kind of watch it and like hang around the TV kind of thing and be like entertained by it, which was really handy for me while I was pregnant with Molly for sure, because I could kind of somewhat put my feet up for a little bit. But Molly, she's totally different. Like she will kind of glance at the TV, she might laugh at it or something like that, like or something, but then she just does not care. Like she will just run away, go find something to do. I don't know if it's because Stevie's, you know, I feel like she might be a bit more introverted and then Molly's a bit more extroverted. So Molly wants that like connection and like busyness. I don't know. It was just, I found that because of that, Molly was a harder baby as well. Like she was just harder than Stevie, you know, needed a bit more, and she still does, a bit more entertainment, a bit more like connection with you. And so, yeah, I found that a lot trickier because it just demands a lot more of your energy and a lot more of your attention. Yeah, for that reason, that's another reason why I think I found going from 1 to 2 harder. I think the other thing that I found really hard, and this again depends on the baby, is like, as I said, neither of my girls slept very well. Molly was a really hard, you know, sleeper. Like it was just nights were hard. I would dread bedtime because I knew that, say I wanted to get her down at like 8 or 9 o'clock or something in those early days, I knew she wasn't just going to go to sleep. Like I was so used to, by that stage, you know, getting Stevie calm and blah, blah, blah. And I could sort of put her down in a cot. She could be asleep. I could walk out. And I kind of forgot, holy shit, when they're a newborn, they don't just want to go in their cot. Like you will, you know, get them to sleep and they'll drift their eyes to sleep or whatever. And you'll put them down and wah, like they'll fully just be awake again. And you will be trying to do that again and again and again. I was trying to do that for like upwards of an hour, maybe even longer. I think maybe up to 2 hours I was doing that. Then Molly would wake up, you know, 2 hours later or something, or not even. I think in those early days, she was only sleeping for like 50 minutes or an hour. Oh man, it was really, really hard. And then, you know, she'd be waking up all through the night and she would be up at 5 a.m. again. And like, that was kind of the start of her day almost, I think. I think I would try to get her down again. But by that point, it was like, God, I'd already been up through the whole night with her. Like I was exhausted. I think sometimes I'd get a couple of hours till 7 or something in the morning. And so, yeah, you'd be like tired all night from the baby. And then the next morning you've got a toddler who's awake. They're a 1-year-old. They're ready to go. Like she wanted to, you know, get dressed, have her bottle, have some breakfast, and you've been like up all night with this newborn. So look, I didn't really want this video to just be completely like, it's all fucked. But at the same time, I wanted it to be realistic because I always felt like maybe I was doing something wrong, because I used to hear all these stories of like, oh, you'll know what to do, your second baby's easier, blah, blah, blah. But I just figure that if I can tell you guys like how honestly hard it was, maybe you can be a little bit prepared in that way and just know like, it's not that I would say not to do it, because I love Molly and I love Stevie and I love how close they are in age. I love that so much, and I love how much it's challenged me and it's grown, made me grow so much from that whole like experience. I've really done a lot of mindful parenting and stuff like that. I meditate a lot more, and I'm a lot more, I wouldn't say I'm generally, look, maybe I am a bit calmer of a mum, but it's not really that. It's more that it's just helped me so much in my life be a better person. But at the same time, like, I think it's so helpful to be prepared and to know like actually it can be quite hard and not to just float around in, you know, ignorance is bliss of like, oh, it's gonna be fine, like I'll, you know, it's gonna be all good. Everybody says it's easier. It's more like empowering, I feel like, to know that, okay, it actually could be hard. You know, that's the other thing, is like bathing Stevie as a toddler and then having Molly as a newborn, who was a very screamy newborn. Yeah, it helped me having like the bouncer rocker thing next to the bath while I could deal with Stevie while Molly was in the rocker. Also, I guess in saying that too, like Tom was working night shifts and stuff at the time. So I found that challenging because I was doing like all of the put downs with them and having to bath both of them and that kind of thing, and juggling both of them, which I found super, super tricky. So I guess that depends too. Some mums might say, oh, my second was easier because, yeah, they were maybe an easier baby. Maybe they had a bit more family around or something, or their partner was there and they could both take one each. There were definitely nights like that where Tom wasn't working and he could just put Stevie down. That was awesome. And I could just focus on Molly. I guess it's just my story, my perspective a little bit, that I found it way harder going to 2. I think as well, like I found the 0 to 1 really hard for sure. But I also was getting so much out of it because it was the first time I'd become a mum. First time I was experiencing motherhood, which of course comes with its challenges and like it can make or break you kind of thing. At the same time, I was feeling so fulfilled already in my life. I was like, holy shit, I am just loving being a mum. I'm loving doing this, like having the pram and I don't know, doing the whole thing, just like loved it. Whereas I didn't get that experience with Molly. Like, yeah, of course I did. And like, yeah, I was becoming a second-time mum. But I kind of already done that. Like I'd already experienced becoming a mum before, you know? So I feel like maybe you could call it a bit of a honeymoon phase. I don't know. It's not really, I wouldn't call it honeymoon phase because it's still special, but it's just not like the first time, you know? So I didn't have that same, I don't know, I just found the 0 to 1, I just noticed it so much more in myself and like how much it changed my life in a good way. Whereas with Molly, like it had already done that. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I guess like in summary, some things that I wish that I had done is ask for more help and like put my foot down a little bit more, because I did have my sister around, but I didn't really expect much of her. I didn't really go out of my way to get her to come around to my house and help. I really wish that maybe back then I'd just been a bit more assertive of like, look, I need your help right now. This is not an easy time in my life. Like it takes a village. It takes a village with a baby, and like having 2 of them, it's hectic because it doesn't last forever. I think that's the cool thing, is like now that the girls are a bit older, I can definitely tell you it doesn't last forever. Like they do get to a point where, you know, both of them are walking, like Molly's walking now and Stevie is obviously. And like, I don't have to be, you know, I love the newborn phase for sure, but I didn't feel like I really got to enjoy it as much with having a toddler to look after. But they do get to a stage where they're not, you know, on you all the time, and you can just like get tasks done around the house, like get dinner sorted and that kind of thing, get their bath running and that, without them being like on you all the time and you feel like you're breaking your back every time you're trying to do some stuff. They can just like play a little bit, and yeah, there's new challenges, like they fight so much more because they're siblings and blah, blah, blah. But it's just not like those really early days. Like I'm getting more sleep. That's another huge thing, is finally when Molly started sleeping a bit more, she still wakes up every night for a bottle, and sometimes it's more than that. In general, like I'm just getting longer stretches of sleep. I feel more refreshed in the day. Stevie understands as well, because she's a bit older, that I need to divide my attention between them. You know, I need to change Molly's nappy, and like she totally gets that, you know, and like, yeah, it just, I don't know, I feel like they're both a little bit more patient. Maybe in those early days as well, it's like Stevie was in shock because she was like, oh my God, there's a baby around. Does my mum even care about me? Which of course, like, you know, we do, but it's just, I think they get a bit like, bang, you know, they're a bit like nervous about the whole thing, about all the changes. Whereas now, you know, they know each other and they know what each other's like. Like Stevie knows that Molly's pretty loud and pretty demanding. I just feel like everybody adjusts to it. Like that's the happy ending in it all, is like you do figure it out and you do get through those really hard initial days. I feel like maybe the first 6 months was like the hardest. And then once Molly could like sit up by herself and play with some toys on her mat and stuff, that was like game changing, because then I could go and help Stevie go to the toilet, and I don't know, it just made it so much easier. I think as well, just, you know, really being patient with yourself, like just knowing that, like I think I kind of wish that I knew it was going to be really hard, because then I could just know that, okay, this is a really hard time right now. I'm not crazy. This is a hard time and how I feel is very valid. And so I'm not going to stress myself too much about it. I'm just going to give myself grace, get through this time, know that it's not going to last forever, and just try to enjoy those newborn little moments as much as I can. And just know that it's not going to go forever. Like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. They're going to be walking one day, both of them, and they're going to be using the toilet, and I won't be having to change 2 babies' nappies and stuff. You can just know, like, okay, I'm just going to take it easy on myself. You know, I'm not going to expect too much of myself, because that's kind of what I was like. I was very much expecting myself to get up in the morning and be there and like be on. And I think it's just like, no, just, you know, like lower your expectations. Like, yeah, you might need to nap a couple of times in the day, and like someone might need to come and help you with your toddler. Just take them for a bit, and like your toddler will get used to it. You know, your toddler will get used to you being busy with another child. Yeah, it would just take them a bit of adjusting, you know, but they will gain that trust over time. As the days go on and the weeks, they'll gain trust that like, oh, well, mummy's still here for me. You know, I don't have to freak out. It's all good. And they'll enjoy the baby a bit more. Like, I feel like as well, Stevie probably found it hard at the beginning, because you know, when they're a newborn, they're feeding a lot, they're very clingy, they're like a cute little koala that doesn't really do much, but maybe it's a bit boring for the toddler. But then once they can start playing and sitting up and things like that, it's like the toddler can enjoy it a little bit more, and you don't get so scared of them like bloody squishing the newborn and stuff. You can kind of have a bit more fun with it, sort of thing as well. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. I could probably literally talk about this for forever. I just really hope that that helps someone out there, one of you pregnant mums or something. Tell me in the comments if you agree or if you disagree, what your experiences were. I would love